Good morning. I gave Peter the option that I can speak in English or Hindi, my mother tongue. So choice is yours if you want to pick up the Hindi one. Yeah. But to introduce myself, my name is Hitesh Nagpal. Is that how you want to run it? Is a guy? Okay. So to introduce myself, my name is Hitesh Nagpal, and currently I head a function in IKEA which is called Shared Services. And I have been actually associated with the IT sourcing journey of IKEA since 2002. 2002, I was working for a consultancy company in Sweden, and I was managing their operations as country manager. And 2006, I actually joined IKEA and then started working on this. So I have a wide, how should I say, experience. I'm not sure it's 1 year experience multiplied 15 times or 15 years experience, but please do stop me and ask me if you have any questions or detail. This presentation will give you a very high level overview, last for about 20-25 minutes, but let's see where we are. Yeah? Yeah. Whatever you say. Yeah. Is this good enough? Okay. Can you all see me, or do you need the chair to stand on? Yeah. Just to say what I'm going to talk about, there are three things that I thought I'll focus on. One, the IT sourcing journey and the key goals that we had for IKEA when we started this. Second, the need that we felt why we need to do supplier management and steering of suppliers in a much more professional way. And lastly, where we are today. If you have any other expectation, you can always contact me later on. I'll be available. I'll leave my contact details. But this is what I'll focus on for the next 20-25 minutes. Yeah? Before we go any further, this is one statement that I think many of my colleagues who are sitting here and personally I also feel passionate about. I think that's one thing. If you ask 10 people in IKEA in terms of why you do what you do, is to get this statement, to create a better everyday life for the many people. Whether we are in IT or any other support function or in the core product development or logistics area, this is what drives us on a day-to-day basis. To realize this, we have a simple business model. What we say is we create products that we love, better products at lower prices that help us drive higher volume, which gives us lower cost, thereby giving us the capability to create much better products again. A very simplistic model, but that's something that we try and incorporate in every time we work with a supplier or a partner also. Yeah? That was just the context of why we exist as an organization. Right? Quickly looking at the sourcing journey, and quite frankly, my intention was not to walk you through in terms of what we did in all those years, but just to say a few important steps which you must incorporate. One, working with a partner or an external company has been a model that IKEA has been working with right from the inception. I mean, we have been working in manufacturing furniture with our partners, but the IT supplier existence came in picture, I think, somewhere around 2000. So it's a long journey. We are where we are because we have gone through these teething problems for a number of years, and we have in the years taken multiple steps like sourcing of managed network services, sourcing of application development, and so on and so forth. But what we have realized that this is much bigger a change journey internally for an organization than just signing a contract. I'm sure you all relate to it, but we are not professional, we are not mature in this journey either after so many years of operations. But I'll talk to you about further in terms of how we are doing it and what are we doing. What was also important was to define why we really want to do this sourcing, or why do we want to really work with external partners. And stated or unstated, we had been working with these goals for a number of years, and finally in 2010 we formally documented them. The first one was to enhance variable capacity and increase flexibility. Now, quite frankly, when I was putting these goals together for actually Monica and other folks to communicate from the management perspective, I looked at many companies, and majority of them had defined exactly similar kind of goals, right? There was no difference. And then we said, okay, what can we do to make it much more relevant to our day-to-day operations? And we said, yes, it's good to define the goals at this level, but we need to trickle it down to every operational activity that we do. And the way we did was, we defined what do we mean by flexibility, right? Or what do we mean by enhancing variable capacity? And we defined actual KPIs, which we even now, periodically quantify, measure, and see how are we doing as regards to our goals. Just to give you an example or a few examples, we said when you talk about flexibility, it's very difficult to quantify that, right? So, and we are not talking about just scalability from, let's say, a number of resources that we need from 0 to X. We are also talking about how responsive we are in terms of how fast can we do that. When we talked about enhancing capability, the simplistic measure was how would the consumers of our services perceive us. Once we have a baseline, then we periodically quantify that. How are we improving? Are these surveys that we do or all the defects that we encounter in the acceptance testing phase, are they reducing or are they increasing? So we quantify that on an annual basis, look at it in a management perspective, and see how are we doing as regards to our sourcing goals. Reduce risk. We actually went ahead and defined the operational risk of the organization in terms of what risk are we carrying on a day-to-day basis, in terms of our dependency on services, in terms of our dependency on key resources, and then how are we reducing those risks over the years. And lastly, being IKEA, we are always cost conscious, and that was one goal that we always wanted to drive across, that we wanted to save some money. Yeah. Now, my reason of spending little time on these goals was, if you are working with a partner or if you intend to work with a partner, it's really important to be very clear of what you want to do. And in my personal experience, I have seen many organizations defining some what I call oxygen-free goals, and then don't link them into the reality in terms of how do we quantify that. And that's where the difference comes in. If you're able to connect the goals to actually an activity that we do, like I said, enhancing capability, what would it mean for number of defects in the acceptance phase on a monthly or an annual level? Do you see the connection, Peter?
This connection, will you find that in the contract as well with your suppliers? Yes. Can you follow your goals that you put here to the contract you have with your suppliers?
Yeah, this is a brilliant question, Peter. I think no, I'll be very honest, because quite often, and I'll come to the statements before, I've seen people saying that, we sign the contract and we toss it up in the drawer so that we don't open it again. But in our case, we wanted to create a contract which supports what we wanted to achieve. So we have consciously built up provisions in the contract that enables us to be more flexible, that enables us to be more enhancing our capability and reducing our risk. For example, we have consciously included in our fixed price a contract that every vendor would do an operational risk assessment of the landscape that they support, and then they will report us how the risk has been reducing over the years. So we have consciously gone ahead and created those provisions that we can enhance for. Yeah, do you see the connection, right? Yeah, yeah. Good. Feel free to ask me any questions at any point of time. This is very high level, but there is a multiple level detail available that we can go across to. Yeah. All right. Yeah, maybe I know it's very difficult to follow an Indian in English and also in the morning. My idea was to first ask you one question, just to know where you are, and then play a small game. Yeah. Just to get our sugar going. So my first question to you would be, can you please raise your hand in case you directly work with a partner or a vendor, or you have been involved in some IT sourcing contracts or managing a contract or managing a supplier? Majority of you, or that's what I would say? Yes. So, good thing then. So my intention today was then take you to a marketplace where we would like to bid for something. And I created a hypothetical situation that let's bid for 100 kroner, yeah? And I'll share with you the rules of the game or the rules of the bidding process, and let's see where we are. And of course, there will be no exchange of money, so I will not lose my 100 kronas either. But it's just to get some messages across for the people who are watching. It's a 100 kroner note. So let's look at the rules of the bidding game. Can you take a few moments to read through them? Are you okay? The rules are okay? Just let me at least ask. I'm sure you want to jump into a. It's like, let's see, it's a supplier and a buyer situation. I'm the supplier and you're the buyer, and hopefully we'll try to get to some kind of a contract in the end. But are the rules okay? Do you expect, or do you get the clarity about what you want to do or what we want to do by bidding for this note? Yeah.
So you are the supplier.
I'm selling this 100 krona note,
Yeah.
and you can bid. And the bid starts at 50, so I must get half my money back for sure, right? But of course, based on how the bidding process would go on, we'll see where we progress, yeah?
Yeah, that's why
Yeah.
I'm so worried.
Yeah. So let's start the bidding, is that okay? Yes? Are we saying yes to this, or? Yes? Okay, any bidders to 50, like 60, yeah. Is that it? Now you know that Peter would get this 100 krona note for 60 kronas, and you will still pay me 50, right?
It's worth it.
Yes, it's worth it, yeah. Yeah. Any more bidders? No? It's fun, yeah. It's like, don't worry, I'll not ask you for money. Yeah? So 70. Now he's home safe, but you got to pay me 60, but you'll not get anything back, but he will get the 100 kronas for 70. What would you like to do, Peter?
Can you and I have a private discussion about this?
For sure. Yeah, for sure. We can have it, yeah. That's a contract management style of managing based on relationship. Let's talk on this side, yeah.
What about 70?
70 is already there, right? So, yeah, so 80. Now you lose 70 kronas. Don't worry, I'll not take your money. Yeah? So just to get this process across, yeah. Do you see the point? Because in my case, I've already made 150 kronas, right? If I sell it to Peter or to the gentleman here, either one of them gets the 100 kronas, makes the money, but I get my profit. And bear in mind, the suppliers, whosoever they are, they're not there to do a charity for any one of us, right? Let's be very clear, and let's accept that fact that like we want to grow, they also want to grow. Like we want to enhance our business, they also want to enhance our business. That's the first proposition that we should be very clear with the suppliers, that they are here working with us to make money. As simple as that, right? Do you see this point, yeah? Now, quite often what we miss, yeah, sorry. Yes. 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 Absolutely. Absolutely. Because you ultimately are going to pay for it, directly or indirectly. So if you squeeze a supplier quite a lot, that they lose money. So I have seen situations when people have been bidding 150 kronas for 100 kronas note also. But is that a long-term sustainable model? No, it's not, right? So let's not make the only goal for reducing the cost, right? And there's a good cost and a bad cost. We should eliminate waste wherever possible in the value chain, thereby getting into a win-win situation with the partner. But the cost-driven contract negotiation is never just a successful negotiation. Ultimately, we pay, right? That's the message I want to convey, right? So you're right. A lot of suppliers do that. They just to get into the contract, they put the prices very low. And I have seen these examples many times. Yeah, but I think we should refrain from those suppliers. Now, quite a few things in this whole process. One, quite often the mistakes that we do as buyers is forget the small prints. Yeah, here you can't even see that. Yeah, that's we do that quite often. I'm sure you have done that. I'm sure I have done that a couple of times. And the content is not important, right? It's not the content what it says here in this example. But when you get into a professional agreement with the supplier, be very clear about what are you getting into, right? Do not ignore these small prints. This could mean that everybody who's bidding pays me 100 kronas. Yeah, as simple as that. But to me, that's the process that we quite often neglect. Yeah. So let's see how the process flows. Yeah. Now, typically, what happens in the beginning, and that's true for this small exercise that we did. That's true with any contractual agreement that we get into, whether we get into a multi-million-dollar contract or even a few thousand krona contract, right? What happens, the client and the buyer both have certain, of course, expectation requirements and performance needs, and they want to completely align at the beginning. Yeah, I call it like a couple who has just started to date. They want to bring the best from their side on the table. Like they agree to what you say, they do what you're keen for, they promise you a wonderland that they'll get you into, and so on and so forth. Yeah, that's a very common thing. And same with you. You also say that this is the transparency we have, this is the data we can share, and whatnot. So the whole purpose at that stage is how can we align to come to what we call is a contract document. Have you been through this process before? Do you relate to it? Yes? Now what happens? The second stage comes in. Once we have a signed contract, right? So we have aligned, and then we start saying, okay, this is what I was expecting, and my perception was this is what I would get as a buyer, and service provider, based on how much he or they quoted, they said, okay, my performance would reflect how much money they are making, right? And then we start getting into some issues, and the issues could be as simple as, okay, I am not getting the right response from either party, i.e., I don't get the right resources that I need, or the buyers don't give me the right information to do a job which I want to do as a supplier. Or it could be actual value leakage or financial losses that the supplier might get into, in which case they would start reflecting badly in terms of their performance that they execute. Do you see this point? Yeah. And the whole purpose that we thought of supplier management, steering of suppliers, was to have some kind of an aligned way of managing those expectations and the performance. Pure and simple, very, very basic. And that expectation is not something that is consistent across all the buyers, or the performance is consistent across all the suppliers. This is very specific to the area, unit, organization that you belong to. You have your own expectations based on the goals that you have defined, and then you clearly articulate those expectations and perceptions that you have in the contract, and then you manage the supplier to get this across. Is this coming clear?
It sounds simple.
Yes? But it's way too difficult, Peter. I think I've heard the statement. Sorry. Yes, that's the whole next 10 minutes or so, yeah. No, but this was just to say why we felt this was so important to clearly articulate the goals and what we want to achieve in the contract itself, right? Just the need. Do you relate to this? Yeah. So I have put together a few statements that I actually have heard people talking in my professional career, as both as a supplier to many companies and also as a buyer for a number of years now. Please read them through and see if you relate to any one of them, right? I have seen people making statements like Peter was just telling, I never had to open the contract in the last few years. Can we step aside in my corner room and then talk about it and resolve the situation, right? The way you were trying to address, very relationship oriented. I've heard suppliers making these statements. We sign a contract and we hope that we never have to open it again. Yeah, of course, suppliers don't want to open the contract. Why should they? Right? I mean, they are not the ones who have provisions, and I call them, somehow weapons of mass destruction that we include in the contracts. I have also had cases when people make a statement that the supplier must have done this so many times, but why are they not doing it here in my organization? Do you see that relation? I mean, we talk about big names. I'm sure a few of you have been working with companies like Volvo ET, IBM, or Capgeminis of the world. I'm not saying they are bad suppliers. They are good suppliers. They are very professional companies. But the situation that we get into, not articulating our expectations in a clear and lucid way, the performance doesn't get backed up, and then we getting into issues. I've also heard statements like focus on the what and not the how. Let them manage how they want to do it. I just want to know what I should get. A very naive statement, because if you have a partner that is working for you, you should know what they are doing. And it's good to trust the person that is talking to me all the time, but it's also important to understand how's the level below working, and are we really able to get the right benefit or not? Am I getting the right value for the money? Quite often, this is the question. We always believe that we are paying too much and we are getting too little back. So, do you relate to these kind of statements? Do you see yourself in one or the other extreme? Yeah. How many of you feel that this is brilliant? Anything that you want to add to this? Do you see some different situation altogether? Yeah? Absolutely. Absolutely. Yeah. So what we did was, quite frankly, we had exactly the same experience, and we said we want to avoid those situations when we talk about these sitting in few years. And believe me, we are still talking about it, despite our best efforts to get past through these statements. We are still in many situations get into but am I getting the value for my money? All the reported KPIs are green, but how do I get the right satisfaction for the consumers? So what we did was we worked with a leading sourcing advisor, and I don't want to promote that company, but we adopted a supplier management model. And these are cheaper by dozen. So Gartner, McKinsey, TPI, ISG, any company that you work with will have this kind of a model that you can be available. There are universities which have also promoted certain maturity models as a buyer. So you'll hear a lot about these models. So the model talks about 4 different areas. One is the performance management, essentially saying that what we have signed in the contract, are we getting that back? Right? That's the crux. And I know one of my colleagues, actually Patrick, would talk about more service delivery management in this next session. And he will link at least part of the performance management in terms of how are we delivering together with our partners towards our consumers. Second important aspect is the relationship management. And I think, Eva, you were talking about this, that the KPIs are green, but still users are not satisfied. So how can we really focus on increasing the satisfaction? And here we have a KPI, for example, in the contract, that every vendor, every supplier will do an annual survey, getting a feedback of how the executive teams are responding to the satisfaction level, how the consumers are responding, and so on and so forth. And then, in case we feel that the trend is going negative, we can actually penalize them for breaking this across. So supplier has an obligation to increase the satisfaction and not just adhere to the KPIs. It sounds very subjective. Yes, how can you blame a supplier when we say that we are not happy? All that we are saying is that we are not happy, right? The survey just says that we are not happy, and then we can put a supplier liable for that unhappiness and penalize them. Has the contract been signed? Yes. Many companies have signed that kind of a contract with us. Contract management is essentially to make sure that we are complying to the contract that we have signed, the provisions that we have made, because quite often we have a lot of things that we intend to do in the contract, and then they get put across in a table or somewhere, and then we never refer to the contract. But we actually went to the extent of saying that we'll create a new team, and we created that team in 2010. We called it as contract and vendor management. And this was not the organization that was procuring. So we have professional buyers in a different organization. But we created a organization, a small unit, a team of 20 odd people who were just ensuring compliance to the contract and supporting the service managers and delivery responsibles to get the support from the contract compliance perspective. Do you see the linkage? Yeah. And of course, financial management. So we have every possible opportunity that we get to reduce costs. We find waste in the system, in the value chain, and we try to eliminate that and thereby reducing cost. Are we still happy? No, we are not. We are far away from the situation when we actually get the right value for the money that we spent. But it's a maturity process. It's like yeah, it's a process of growing up. So we are becoming professional every year, and we are better and better with every day. Yeah. Is this model clear? Because this is the crux of the things. And to me, these are very broad 4 categories. If you want more details, there are about 40 different areas underneath that we need to address, and we have not addressed all of them. We have started a few that we thought were more important than the others. So we have picked up some from performance management, some for relationship management, and so on and so forth, and we are tracking them on a continuous basis. Yeah. Anybody wants to have this? I can share this. This is a model which is very standard. Gartner publishes exactly a similar model with some different naming convention, but this model is available. Yeah. All right. Where are we now? So in terms of where we are, we have more than 100 suppliers today that are supporting us. But what we have done is the first thing is categorization of suppliers into different categories. We have strategic suppliers, preferred suppliers, and active suppliers. Nothing new about it. I'm sure you have heard it many times. You possibly have this classification in your own organization, in your own units. But what we are also tracking is at how much money are we spending with the top 20% of the suppliers, right? That's what we are tracking. We are tracking how are we governing those suppliers on a regular basis, and so on and so forth. And I'll give you some examples of what we are doing in this whole process. So this is a slide with a lot of data, and my intention was not to go through it, but just to give you an idea about the kind of details that we have. This is just an indicative example. So what we have done, if you look at the category, we have strategic suppliers, preferred, active, and potential suppliers. And we track the current spend, future spend, strategic alignment, dependency on them, and so on and so forth, to move them from one category to another category. Yeah? So we continuously evaluate them on a periodic basis. And then based on what category they belong to, they have certain privileges. For example, an executive sponsor who's a senior manager, it's not available for every supplier, every type of supplier. We have about 10, 11 strategic suppliers, and we have a senior management responsible managing that relationship on a periodic basis. They meet, they talk about the future alignment, they work on it, and so on and so forth. The preferred suppliers also have an executive sponsor, may not be at the same level from an organization, and active suppliers may not have, and of course potential may have on an ad hoc basis just to evaluate if you want a sponsor for them. And so on and so forth. Contract manager, so we will have a contract manager appointed for a number of categories and not for all of them. Do you see the difference? Do you see the way we are trying to manage? Is essentially to make sure that we give due importance, due some kind of a consideration to the suppliers that we really are dependent on, and we manage them well. And then we grow with them. So it's not that we just manage them well to bring down the cost, but we also give them opportunities to create cross-functional selling, of their services, and then we grow with them. Is it making sense? Is it? Yeah. It's very basic information. So I think the magic is not in terms of what we are doing is something different than others are talking about. All that we are doing is that we have adopted a model, and over the years, consciously or unconsciously, we are trying to implement that across in a much more persistent way. That's the only difference here. Sorry, Peter.
Can you give an example or tell more about when it comes to your strategic suppliers?
Yeah.
We can see that IKEA strategy, you are sharing it with them.
Yeah.
How will that sound like? Is it like a strategic meeting, or will they involved with the planning, or how are you doing that?
Yeah. So I was just the next slide possibly is on these forums that we have. But just to give you an example, we have a planning exercise that we do on a periodic basis. So we identify based on our strategies what do we need to do from a technology perspective or from an initiative perspective, and then which initiatives would call for a technology support. And then actually we go out and meet these suppliers on a periodic basis to talk about that portfolio. And then they get to know, yeah, I am interested in this area. So how can I get involved in that? And then they start building their competence. They start understanding what IKEA would need, and then they pitch to us what they can do in that area. And in quite a few cases, we involve them into new areas also. So that's the platform that we provide to them by sharing these plans ahead of time. Yeah. Of course, we can wait till we have an RFP in place or a contract process being started. But by that time, suppliers get into this nervous mode, yeah, because they do not know who are they competing with. So what we try and do is provide a conscious opportunity to a certain sect of suppliers, saying that yes, now you have more information. But that doesn't mean that they don't have to compete. They still compete, but they have much broader information to reduce the risk that they would perceive in their offer. And bear in mind, no supplier actually takes any risk without providing for it. You see my point? If you provide less information to the supplier and they perceive a higher risk in the contract, they build it into the financial model itself. So you eventually land up by paying higher amount. So the more transparent we can be as buyers, the better risk management the supplier would be able to do, and the better they are able to provide a better commercial model to us. Does it make sense? Yeah. Yeah, I think to be honest, I'm not too much into semantics. Yeah, we have called them vendors quite often. We have changed them to suppliers. I don't think we call them partners, because to me, we want to be flexible enough to change them if required. So to me, partner, okay, this is purely my personal view. I don't think we as IKEA has a professional opinion on whether we call them partners or suppliers. But to me, partnership means that, okay, now we are in this together. So even if you do badly, I'll try to, but we want to maintain that flexibility to move out. If you don't perform consistently over a few months, yes, I have the option to go to somebody else. So we have started to call them suppliers at this point of time. But that's purely a semantic to me. I think it's more the intent that you want to do behind it. Yeah. Good. Any more questions, reflections at this point of time? No. Okay. So this is these forums that we are talking about. We have, of course, it's very standard model. This is like you Google it and you'll get this model across. Yeah, it's so relevant and operation. So we have operational meetings, and I think Patrick would force quite a lot on service management meetings with our business and with suppliers that we have. We have tactical meetings, which we call as management forums, and a few of my colleagues have been participating in those forums. And then we have executive forums, both for running business and business development. Yeah, so we give them opportunities to talk about it. And then we also have a platform for innovation and some forums where we actually let them pitch in whatever they want to pitch in, right, based on their experience. And then we get in some of our senior management, we get some of our architects to get new ideas of what else they can do. Is it something new? No, not at all. It's just a complying to these model on a consistent way is what that hopefully is making a difference for us. Yeah, and that's pretty much it. In summary, this is what I would say. These are the 4 areas. Focus on them. There are I think 40 activities that we identified, 30 or 40 odd activities underneath these 4 areas. But to avoid value leakage and do a good supplier management, these are the 4 areas that we must build internal capabilities on. And when I say internal capabilities, we need to build those capabilities. It's like that joke, I'm not sure, way back when I started outsourcing to India, I saw a cartoon with a father sitting with a daughter and then saying that you cannot outsource your homework to India. Have you heard about that? No? So possibly I should have brought this. A father telling a daughter saying that you cannot outsource your homework to India. And that was a talk of the time. This is what our homework is all about. We need to be prepared for what we want to achieve. We want to be very clear in setting those expectations, and we have a contractual provision with the supplier that we want to follow. In our personal experience of IKEA, these 4 areas have really proven beneficial, and at least in the near future, I see that we will stay with these 4 areas to focus on.
You are perfect.
Good. Thank you.
But there's still some time
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah. If you say so. Any questions? Any reflections?
I have another one.
Yeah.
Go back one slide, please.
Yes.
You said you talk about innovation,
Yeah.
platform innovation. How do you secure that they are innovative and you can get innovation from them?
Yeah. And here I think the okay, maybe I should take a step back. Okay, quite often we use innovation in terms of different contexts. Yeah, we talk about innovation in our processes. It's called process innovation. It could be a innovation in our services that we offer, right? In terms of how can we improve them on a different level altogether. It's not a continuous improvement, but maybe a leap forward. Or it could be innovation in a very small context of okay, eliminating waste. Yeah. So what we say is that we provide an open platform to them and say based on your experience, your learnings, your thinking, and how the industry is moving, bring what you want to offer to us, right? And then we get our architects, we get our senior management in that platform, and then they have openness to present whatever they want. So they bring in both very operational things that they feel they can give us substantial improvement, and very strategic things of what we can do, either with business intelligence or big data or anything of that sort. Yeah. So to me, it's an open platform where we provide them opportunities. We also encourage them to actually have a structured way of capturing the ideas that come from their operational teams, so that they also bring them forward and see, okay, how a small idea could be very beneficial to the whole business. I can take a small example. We have our supply chain systems being sourced with one of the companies, and then they were able to come with the algorithm for managing our safety stocks for the products that we have, right? Which could predict better safety stock, better levels of them, much more stringent. And it worked fine. So we tried it. It was a very operational thing. They came back with an algorithm, and we implemented that across in our supply chain, in our JDA platform that we use, and voila, we made huge savings. So to me, is that innovation? Yes, it is. Yeah.
Because my experience is that they often get locked down in operations.
Yeah.
And they aren't really that innovative anymore, and you are not getting that new business value you want from your, let's say, partners or suppliers.
Yes.
So have you any contractual items for this, or how do you measure it? Do you follow up, or how do you secure that they really are innovative and not just say that they should be innovative?
Yeah. So two things. One, you possibly are addressing in this zone more or less that supplier must have done it so many times. They are innovative. If we talk about big suppliers, they are much bigger even than the size of IKEA, right? From a revenue perspective, and we are working with them. Are they at that level because they are just operational? No, certainly not. They are much more innovative than possibly majority of us. So the question is, how do we get that innovation across to our whole context, right? And then what we did actually in the contract part, coming back to the contract, we actually asked for making commitments in terms of hours that they would do on an annual basis to talk about these innovative, ideas. So they have, I don't know, let's say 2,000 hours of work committed in the contract on an annual basis to bring innovative ideas. And then we quantify them. Okay, what have you done in that hours? Because we are not using them. We are not putting that into the operational use. We're just asking them to, okay, what have you done? Please explain it to us. So basic things, but of course it depends quite a lot on individual teams, individual managers, and how do we manage the supplier relationship. If you encourage that, they definitely bring it forward. I hope I answered your. Any more?
Vi får ljudet att funka också.